Okay, this would probably be better served in an email, but I just realized that I don't know for sure. I know I have Kim's email. I don't know if I have Natalie's or Carly's, but in the future, I'll probably try to do something like this in email, unless you guys would prefer a video. Either way, actually. So I don't really have a lot to show you guys, but I do have a lot to talk about or just go over real quickly. So I did do a little bit of rearranging on the tree. As of right now, the Grego line, I believe, we it's pretty much a direct hit. I'm starting to look into Joseph a little bit more, so as opposed to David. So I have since my last video, I have spoken to Laura Finn, Beth Livingston, and Maria Hutchinson, descendants of both sides of the family, actually, of each family, I should say. So both Beth Livingston and Laura Finn. Laura Finn is actually David's daughter, um, and so I didn't realize that until I spoke to her, and she admitted that it's obviously he has done that thing before, and it's not impossible. Anything really, she would not have been surprised, but she suspected it might be Joseph as well, just because he was in the armed forces. And so and Beth, that was the first thing she told me as well. And so I'm going to start looking into Joseph a little bit and see if I can match up the time frames. One thing Laura Finn did mention is she asked if Ronnie was actually born in Kansas City, Missouri. And from everything that I am gathering, I don't see any evidence that he actually was. I mean, he might have been, but in fact, I don't actually. His family, his adopted family, was in Kansas City, Kansas, and so I'm not even sure how Kansas City, Missouri came about. To be honest, I mean, just from looking at records, I mean, I'm sure you guys probably know, but his adopted family looked like they were in Kansas City, Kansas. However, I have researched adoptions, et cetera, et cetera. So birth certificates would probably not be a fruitful route because I read that generally, once somebody gets adopted, they have birth certificates printed, so it would probably just give us information that we already know isn't exactly correct. Um, I mean, it could be, you never know. But what's interesting too is I did see Ronnie in public records where his middle initial was M, and then other times it was J, and then other times it was Joseph. So the M was there at one time in some sources, but it kind of fell off, I guess, eventually. But I just thought that was kind of interesting. Um, so as far as the Gregos, Joseph, I believe, is worth looking into. But again, Laura Finn, who David Greco's daughter, she was like, well, it would be really nice to know where Ronnie was born and if he was actually born in Kansas City, because um, she does not believe that her father was really ever in Kansas City at all, particularly around that time frame. And he was in Missouri, though, roughly around that time frame, within a year or so, according to records, but it was St. Louis. But again, so it could very well be him. But the problem with Joseph is none of his direct descendants have taken the DNA test, and so we don't really have a direct comparison. So obviously, because Joseph has a son, uh, born in early 50s, still alive, and they want him to actually take the test. It's already been discussed way before we came along, and they said that he's kind of thinking about it but doesn't want to, which, because he just doesn't want to know, I guess, anything. So, um, so basically all we have to compare is the other descendants, like, David, one of his descendants, then Eleanor is another sister. I think 3 DNA matches pop up on that. So it would be nice eventually, and I'm going to kind of go that route to see and offer even to buy a DNA test for him. That's usually kind of what we do to kind of inspire people to do it. Um, and again, I will probably run that by Laura Finn and see what she thinks. And again, that would be a major determining factor. With the DNA match, it's not outside of the realm of possibility that it is David, but given that I'm trying not to get too much into the nitty gritty here, but one of the DNA matches to David would definitely be enough, but the other one isn't, if that makes any sense. It's Beth Livingston, that she is significantly less, and she would not necessarily, like, she would not be enough DNA shared to be a half sibling. And so that's kind of assuming that all this family information that we're getting is correct. Then, based on the DNA, there is a good possibility that it might be one of his brothers, like Joseph, for example. But it's still not outside the possibility that it could also be David. It's just that we're just kind of wanting to make sure, basically. That's where I'm at with that. I was trying to track Ronnie's adopted parents, looked at some census reports, seeing if maybe any of these families might be on the censuses, things of that nature, any friends that they might have had. Again, all that might not be eventful or fruitful, but it's just stuff that you can do or I can do or whatever, you know what I mean, like I can do or a person can do to kill time and just make sure. The other side of the family is, so I'm kind of reshuffling the deck on that. I no longer believe that it is Celia. As of 2 days ago, Friday. I guess that was yesterday. So maybe it was Thursday, Thanksgiving. So I am now believing that it was a cousin of Celia's. Just, again, finally was able to just sit down, do a little bit of the DNA comparison. Probably not even a sister of Celia, but we've definitely again got the right family. There's no mistake in that. It was definitely somebody in her family. And again, we're getting a ton of matches. And again, you'll notice that I did cycle out the family tree a little bit, but I mean, for example, we're getting a lot of matches on this Lopez Salas line. And that would probably be a good route to go. I mean, we're getting significantly more matches there than we are anywhere else. And so that would probably, I mean, a lot on the Morgan and Jenkins line as well, or quite a few. But I mean, there's no doubt that we got the right family. You're definitely cousins of this family. Right now, we're just trying to basically do that very last step, which is decide who and why and when and all that good stuff. So, with that said, I scribbled down some notes here a few days ago to mention in this. So, what was kind of odd to me was the Grego folks were just not surprised at all. They're like, yep, this happens. The other side, I spoke to Maria Hutchinson. She's like, yeah, we've never really had anything like this before. So, I mean, complete opposite ends of the spectrum in every way from the relatives that. And again, if you guys remember anything about Ronnie's birth or anything like that, I'm assuming it would have already been said, but so Maria on the side that came from Mexico, she really did not have very much information. And I also, what was interesting to me, I did find a Grego line that most likely are cousins that were based in Kansas City as well. So it's a possibility that it could have been anything like that as well. Like maybe the Gregos went to Kansas City because they had cousins there. So I'm glad that I found that because I'm just going to keep that tucked in the back of my mind and pursue that afterwards if there's nothing else. The other thing, DNA tests are in the mail as of Friday morning. I know I talked to both Kim and Natalie about mailing them. I got Natalie's address first, so I went ahead and sent them both to her. Completely different steps for each one of you. Since Kim, you already have an Ancestry account, you're basically going to link it to you in that Ancestry account. Natalie will actually have to go to Ancestry.com and create an account. And there are instructions on how to do all that. Be sure and check that out, read that. And there's going to be a code in there that I would probably take a picture of it because that would be very important. You don't want to end up losing that code, and you're going to need that code actually to connect your DNA kit to your tree on Ancestry.com, so you don't want to like mail it off and not have that code. That would be bad. So I just wanted to mention that. And it's a spit test. It took me, my mom was making fun of me the whole time I was doing it years ago. I realized that I have a shortage of spit. It took me forever to do that. So I'll be curious to see what you both think of it. Obviously, I don't know if anybody else has ever had any trouble with it. And don't worry, no drugs are being tested or anything like that. I forget which one of you that I joked around about that with. But anyway, that's all I got for you right now. I'm going to go ahead and post this. Just consider this like an email or a phone conversation or whatever. I hope you guys had a good Thanksgiving. And again, so just kind of focusing in on the Joseph Grego, peering into him and then a little bit, and then you may notice some changes with the family tree occasionally if you do get on there as well. But anyway, I'm going to quit yakking now. Talk to you guys later.